water puppet. Some folks have dubbed me a hero, and honestly, I can't argue with them. There's a bit of truth to it. Believe it or not, I've rescued a drowning man, saved a girl from a burning building, and even saved a dog from being swept away in a fierce flood. My friends thought I was out of my mind, but I just considered it part of my humanity. And, well, I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie. Those daring escapades were my guilty pleasure. I've been skydiving and bungee jumping more than once, and even leaped off a massive waterfall, praying the water wasn't too shallow. I have a few scars to prove my reckless adventures. However, I don't engage in those thrilling activities like I used to, not after the incident that happened about 7 years ago. A few friends and I were leaving a New Year's party, and it was freezing outside. We had to walk 6 blocks to reach our dorms, and the thought of trudging through 20 minutes of -20-degree weather was daunting. Then Chris, slurring his words from drink, suggested we cut through the park. We hesitated, recalling that the city had closed the park due to hazards like falling trees and drowning risks. Beth shuddered at the idea of walking through what felt like a spooky graveyard, while Chris, Jennifer, and I chuckled at her concern. The cold wind stung my cheeks, but the shortcut would save us about 18 minutes, so we decided to go for it. As we entered the park, hopping the gate, the place looked quite beautiful under the moonlight at 2 a.m. The moon's glow shimmered on the frost clinging to the branches. I remembered visiting this park with my parents as a child, especially during summer when we'd see tourists in rented boats. I was curious to see the pond in the moonlight. It had been ages since I'd seen it, especially in the depths of winter. The walk would have been peaceful if Beth and Chris hadn't been arguing about who could drink the most without vomiting. Since Jennifer and I were the sober ones, we kept an eye on them to prevent any mishaps. As we approached the pond, it looked even more stunning than I remembered. We paused to admire the view when Beth noticed something out on the ice. "What is that?" she asked, pointing. We leaned in closer and saw something that made our hearts race. A little girl was trapped on the frozen surface, panicking. We rushed to the water's edge, our phones ready. Jennifer was the first to get through to someone on the line, frantically explaining the situation while the girl stood there, eerily silent. "Are you okay?" I yelled, cupping my hands to amplify my voice. But she remained motionless. I then heard something faint and told everyone to be quiet. Straining to listen, I realized the ice was cracking. Someone needed to rescue her, and since my friends were hesitating, I took a deep breath and cautiously stepped onto the ice. "What are you doing?" Chris shouted, his voice a mix of shock and concern. "Don't go out there. Wait for the police." But I couldn't just stand by. She might fall through. My adrenaline was surging, and I felt a smile creeping in, albeit a nervous one. I tried to move quickly, keeping my eyes on the ice below. I heard a crack and halted, but the ice seemed stable. As I continued, I looked up and saw the girl more clearly. She appeared ghostly pale, almost glowing under the moonlight, as if covered in frost. Doubts crept in. Was she even alive? Then she made a faint sound. I took off my jacket and stretched it toward her, hoping to comfort her. "Everything's going to be fine," I reassured her, inching closer. That's when I realized she wasn't merely standing on the ice. A jagged piece had broken behind her, revealing something horrific. An icy gray tentacle emerging from the water, holding her up. In that moment, I understood that the ice wasn't the only danger. I heard a sickening sound, a rib snapping, followed by a strangled noise from the girl's mouth. Blood dripped from her wounds as she was pulled down into the icy depths. I looked into the gaping hole in the ice, and saw something I still can't comprehend. A gray creature, covered in black veins and sharp spikes, with enormous crimson eyes and a sinister smile that revealed jagged yellow teeth. Panic surged within me as the girl's body vanished into the water. My friends were still making their way across the ice, unaware of the horror unfolding. I tried to scream a warning, but it came out as a whimper. They called for me to hurry to safety, and I finally pushed past my fear and ran, desperately trying not to slip. "Get off the ice!" I shouted, but it was too late. I felt the cold water engulf my ankle as I fell, striking my head on the ice before being dragged into the freezing water. It felt like 1,000 daggers piercing my skin, and when the water hit my eyes, I thought I might freeze. I shut them tight, fighting against the pain while I felt the tentacle tighten around my ankle. Another grasped my shoulder, pulling me deeper. Desperation took over as I thrashed, trying to escape. Each movement only seemed to make the creature's grip stronger. I could feel warm tears mixing with the freezing water, and my lungs began to burn. Just when I thought I'd give in, I realized I had to fight. I pushed against the creature's mouth, attempting to pry it open, even as its teeth cut into my hands. Through sheer determination, I managed to widen its jaw, and it screeched in pain, releasing me. I was pulled back into the dark depths, but I fought to swim to the surface. Exhausted, I reached out for my friends. The last thing I saw was the moonlight before everything faded to black. When I woke the next morning, I was in a hospital, covered in thick blankets. I tried to move, but every inch of my body throbbed with pain. My friends rushed in, relief washing over their faces. They explained how they had pulled me from the icy water and rushed me to the hospital, bombarding me with questions about what had happened. "Trust me," I replied weakly. "You don't want to know." "Will you tell the police?" Beth pressed. I opted to tell them I'd been drunk and sought adventure. Would they really believe a story about a water monster trying to kill me? I doubted it. Since that night, I've shied away from any heroics and developed a fear of water. After college, my friends and I drifted apart, each starting families. Occasionally, we gather for playdates, reminiscing about old times while leaving out certain details. Despite my efforts to forget, I still have nightmares about that night and the creature beneath the ice. 2 weeks ago, Jennifer took her boys, my son and daughter, ice skating at her late father's lake house. Upon returning, my son mentioned something that sent chills down my spine. He claimed to have seen a pale girl standing on the ice with a pale gray shape and 2 red dots at her feet. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to experience more spine-chilling tales, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Your support helps us bring more haunting stories to life. Join our community and let the scares continue. Stay safe, stay spooky, and we'll see you in the next one.